American Century Investments. Today's topic is a topic that we've all been excited about discussing, about raising financially aware kids. It's interesting to me, children are very, very impressionable. They pick up lots of information, sometimes good, sometimes bad, from the adults around them. But it's critically important that we take some time with our children to lead them down the path of being financially aware. I remember as a child, when I was 12 or 13, I had a lawn mowing business, and it was my first opportunity to make a few dollars. And as I started to accumulate some money, I remember being approached by my father, who said, Dave, we're going to start the Griffin Savings Plan. And I said, oh no, the Griffin Savings Plan, what could this possibly mean? And he said, for any of the money that you've earned in your lawn mowing job, if you're willing to put it into an account, I will match it dollar for dollar up to a certain amount. And I believe it was $50 that I could put in the plan each month. And he said, I said, well, that's a great deal. What's the catch? And he said, the catch is any dollars that you put in, you can't pull out until you're 21 years old. And being 13 or 14 at the time and looking at 21 seemed like a whole lot of time to me, but it also sounded like a great deal having some free money. And, you know, it wasn't then, but many years later, I realized that he was teaching me how an employer-sponsored retirement plan worked. And subsequently, I learned how compounding worked after I saw my money accumulate along with the money that he matched. So these little lessons that we teach kids can be very impactful. And now, of course, 25 years later, you know, what do I do for a living but advise institutional retirement plans? So kind of ironic, but thank you for joining us today. My name is David Griffin. I'm the head of Atlanta Retirement Partners. And there on the screen, you'll see a picture of our team here locally. As many of you know, we're an institutional retirement plan advisory firm that work with both plan sponsors and with plan participants to ensure successful retirement outcomes. Joining me today is Brian Munn from American Century Investments. American Century Investments is one of the most highly regarded investment management firms in the country. One of the things that I particularly love about their philosophy is that they really give a lot back. 40% of profits from American Century Investments go to fund cancer research and research for other illnesses in their Stowers Institute in Kansas City. So an amazing organization. I'm happy to have Brian on the line today, and I'm going to have Brian take over from here to walk us through the presentation. And do remember that at the end of the presentation, we'll certainly be taking questions. So with that, over to you, Brian.
Great. Thanks so much, Dave, and good morning to all. And first of all, thank you for taking the time out of I know, very busy schedules to join us for what we feel is a very important topic. As Dave mentioned, you know, children are impressionable, and the way that we work with them and teach them and help them build good habits can be critically important for down the line. And we want to help children become savers instead of spenders. And hopefully today we're going to share some ideas with you that will resonate, some things that maybe you can take and put into play that will help you with whether it be your children or grandchildren, or perhaps just share with others. So, and again, as Dave mentioned, we'll certainly open it up for questions at the end. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump in and take a quick look at the agenda. So first of all, we want to outline why this topic is important. Again, we feel it's very important. We want to maybe hit a couple points on that, and then talk about the how. How do we do this? It comes down to understanding. We're going to talk about allowance, some thoughts on that, and then money management. Help them build a foundation for money management going forward. Share a few examples and illustrations, and then certainly address any questions that might be out there. So first of all, why is it important? You can see a quote here from our founder, Mr. Stowers, just a wonderful and incredible man, very philanthropic, but he was very concerned about getting people started on the right foot. And you can see here, it's important that your children learn what they can do with money early in life so they'll apply the lessons learned at home as they face the real world in future years. So again, building that foundation upon which these children can become savers instead of spenders is important for all. Now, children and grandchildren, you can see out there, this number is kind of staggering, but by the time they're 5 years old, they will have been hit with 30,000 advertisements. You know, I've seen it. I've got a 3-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter, and they truly are insatiable consumers. You know, it's they're watching a show on TV, and the ads for toys pop up, and it is a, "Daddy, I need that. I need that." It's not a want, but a need. And we'll touch on that later. You can see the influence these children have on the economy. $188 billion in direct influence, $300 billion of parental spending, $25 billion of their own money. That's a lot of money out there, and we want to make sure that they're doing the right things with that money, that they're making good decisions, so certainly spending some of their hard-earned money, but also learning the benefits of saving and building themselves a nice nest egg for the future. So how do we do this? You know, as adults, whether you realize it or not, what you're doing, what you're showing, even if you're not directly talking about it, is teaching them. It's building habits for them. And you can see 88% of high school students in a survey revealed that what they learned about money came from their parents. I don't think that should be terribly surprising for any of us, but I don't think we maybe we take that for granted, or we don't think about the impact of the activities of what we do or what we're showing them. You want to help them kind of strike a balance and learn different ways to earn money, saving short-term and long-term, and then to, you know, make good decisions on spending their money wisely, which we will touch on here shortly. So everything that you're doing and showing is having an impact, and we need to consider that. I know at times I need to take a step back and think about, you know, what kind of lessons am I teaching my children when it comes to these financial aspects. We view, you hear obviously you've got your CFOs and CEOs out there. We view all of you as CFPs, Chief Financial Parents. You know, whether you're a business owner or thrifty or not, or, you know, you maybe even have poor habits, you are the CFP. You're that Chief Financial Parent. And, you know, kids who have these conversations, whose parents and grandparents do talk to them about money and money issues, do tend to be savers and not spenders, and that's what we're focused on here. So ultimately, having the conversation, talking, and making sure it's not some taboo topic that we avoid is critical to sort of a successful financial education going forward. So knowing your role as CFP, I think, is step one. So now how do we do it? So that's kind of lays the groundwork for the importance. Obviously, the monetary impact of these children out there, making good decisions is important, but how do we do it? So let's first touch on that first point, understanding. So where do we start? Money, you know, you can see there, I won't read it for you, but the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of money. You know, to your children, money may be something different. You know, it's a value system that you personify. You know, we'll talk in a little bit about bartering. You know, money, sort of that what is money can mean a lot of different things to kids. You know, if you do this, I'll give you this. You know, if you clean up your room, I'll let you watch TV. You know, it can have different definitions, but it all is personified through your behavior. And this is where you see the last few points there, that discussing money is important. You know, we think that's sort of step one. That's a baseline. But demonstrating that good money behavior, demonstrating good habits yourself is what we would call vital to the success of all that we're talking about today. Now, when you're thinking about just understanding and teaching your kids this, you got to kind of take a reflective look and look at yourself and think about, you know, what was I taught growing up? What habits were imparted upon me? What did my parents and grandparents tell me? What did their actions show me? So kind of, you know, look back in time and think about that. Did you feel like you were just kind of making ends meet, or was there always enough? You know, I distinctly remember my dad, it seemed like we would always hear, money doesn't grow on trees, son. And, you know, those little things, you start to think, well, this is not an endless supply. You know, there's certainly enough to go around, but this is something that you've got to manage and manage it wisely. So just consider and think about your own experiences growing up as you start to have these conversations with your children. So we'd say it begins with having the talk, and we've got kind of an acronym here for talk. So first is the T, talk to your kids or grandkids as early as possible. We would argue you can't do it, you know, I mean, certainly 1 or 2 may be a problem, but as children age 3, you'll see in a moment, and up can start to have an understanding of these topics. So the younger the better. Act casually. You know, we don't want this to be a lecture. You want it to be a conversation. You want it to be a dialogue. L, leave money in its proper place. And then finally, K, know your audience. You know, are we dealing with, you know, a 3-year-old or is it a 13-year-old? Just consider who you're talking to. Obviously, you want to take it to their level, you know, and try to tie it back to something that's pertinent or relevant to them. Now, as you start to move through the conversation, and we do think it is important that you don't judge. You know, I think I know I fall victim to this. You know, when I hear that, my son say, I need that, I need that. I think there are certainly cases where he doesn't truly need it, but to him, you know, we may think, look at, for instance, on the chart, stuffed animal, you think toy. Oh boy, another stuffed animal, another toy. A young child may view that as something comforting. You know, they may truly need that. Designer clothing. Sure, we've all kind of fought this battle. You're thinking there's a cheaper alternative. They're thinking I need peer acceptance at school. You know, and the list goes on. So we would just caution to avoid judging. Have a conversation, probe a little bit more. Is this truly something you need, or is this just something you want? And make sure that they understand sort of the value of what they're getting for the potential opportunity cost. Now, how young is too young? We touched briefly on this, but kids as young as age 3 can certainly understand some of these basic concepts. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, gosh, probably when he was 2, I was bartering with my son, you know, please just do this and I'll give you this. They understand earning, you know, put your toys away, clean up your room, and you can have, you know, you can play outside for 20 more minutes, or you can watch this show. Saving. I've certainly worked with my daughter on saving with the piggy bank and putting money away and counting it. Investing, you know, that is an important topic, and one I think sometimes is taken for granted. You just think about an allowance, put your money in your piggy bank, and that's what you've got. Perhaps, as Dave mentioned, I think a great example of his father matching the money that he put into the Griffin 401k plan. And then currency, it's, as I think we touched on, it's not just money, but what's important to your kid. You know, my son at 3, I could probably offer to give him $100 or let him watch a TV show. He's going to take the TV show. So it's not always money, but what's of value to them. And then the older kids get, they can handle bigger challenges such as an allowance, which we'll touch on here shortly. So with allowances, you know, these are the questions we hear a lot. Should we do it? If we do it, when do we do it? And then how much should we do? How much should we give our children? Important questions. I don't think there's a golden rule, silver bullet answer for any of these, but we've got some thoughts that we'll share with you that I think can help frame that. So first, should I give an allowance? Really, we see there's 3 different kind of approaches to this. And, you know, not to say any is right or wrong. You just want it to be a learning experience, and you want it to fit your sort of core values that you want to impart on your children. So the first there is sort of the unconditional allowance. You know, certainly some pros and some drawbacks to that. That is, you know, you're going to get $5 a week every week regardless. Not sure that the behavior that necessarily teaches, but that is one way to do it. The next is tied to actions. You know, if you do these things, you do your chores, you clean up, you get good grades, don't get in trouble, then you get this money. This is your allowance. And then another is just not necessarily paying a weekly allotted amount, but just more of a pay-as-you-go. So as they do chores or as they, you know, hit milestones, maybe get the grades, then, you know, there's sort of money given at that point, but it's not a set allowance. But again, the thought there is to encourage development and control spending. So as we mentioned, don't want it to be a power struggle, make it a learning experience. That's what this is about, and that's something I know can be a challenge. You know, if my daughter is getting her allowance and, you know, her room's a mess, you know, you can get into that, well, I'm taking your allowance away, and then it feels, again, like that sort of power struggle. You want it to be a learning experience for the child. And when do you start? You know, this is maybe more art than science, and I think it's, you know, it could be different for each child, but we want them to have an interest in wanting it. You know, I know my daughter started to kind of ask about it when we engaged with her on this. They need to understand the value of money. You know, they need to have a safe place to put it. They need to respect it and put it away and be able to count it. And then we talked about difference between needs and wants, and this is an ongoing struggle and something that we need to continue to work with them on establishing what is this. Is it truly a need or a want? And then that they're willing to practice the discipline of saving. You know, obviously Dave in his example was willing to go down that path and the dividends paid off, but they're willing to take that step and engage in this behavior. How much is the right amount? You know, some thoughts here on factors to consider. Obviously, younger children are going to need less. So this is something that typically is going to grow a little bit as the child ages. Why are we giving it to them? Are they, you know, is it paid for work? Are they doing chores, mowing the grass? Is it that type of work? Or is it, you know, again, just general good behavior? Obviously, this needs to fit within your own budget. This is something that you need to take a look at and make sure that this fits. And then think about what are they going to be using the money for? Are they buying toys? Are they paying for school supplies and lunches? Are these, you know, critical items? Is it just purely for entertainment? Are they buying clothes? All of these can impact how much money you're giving on a regular basis. You can see down there the rule of thumb, and I think perhaps a good number. I hope my daughter hasn't seen this. I'm going to have to give her a raise, but $1 for each year of age per week, so $12 per week for a 12-year-old. If they're expected to cover larger expenses, you know, lunch at school, clothes, gas, those type of things, perhaps it's a little bit more to help them meet those needs. But again, something that, you know, they can increase year over year and see, you know, that they're getting that raise over time. And giving a raise. This is, again, we're thinking about life lessons here. So, you know, as they age, if you're given $1 per year for each year, you know, they're going to inherently get a little bit more, but you're going to hear that. I need more money. I need more money. We think it is important that you work with them on this and that you perhaps help them come up with a monthly budget, review it, and see where, all right, the money's coming in, where is it going? What are you buying? Did you really need what you bought? Could you have found a better deal for it? Could you have bought it for less, negotiated a better deal? And then sort of see the interaction of earning and spending and learning what a budget is. And, you know, when you say you need more money, take a deep look at what you're spending it on and let's figure this out. And listen to them. You know, don't just shut it down, but help them work through this. Perhaps talk to other parents, peers of theirs to, you know, get some idea. You know, it could be a situation of peer pressure. Maybe, you know, it could be putting some stress on them. So get some feedback from other parents. And then again, at the end of the day, it's all about do what you think is right and something that's going to help impart upon them the values that you want them to portray. Now, money management, this is where obviously it gets into, you know, I think taking it to the next step. And this is going from just giving an allowance to investing it and managing it over time. And this is where we do think it's important to have these conversations. Talk to your children about money. Talk to them about how you personally earn money. Talk to them about what you've got to do, your obligations. Obviously, you're paying mortgage, you're paying bills, you're paying car payments, you're paying all of these things, and how you do these and manage these and maintain control of your life. And then also, you know, Dave mentioned and learned, I think at a young age, about sort of the benefits of compounding and what a 401k and regular investing plans look like. Show that to your children. Show that you're paying yourself first through these investment plans. Show them that you're perhaps saving, you know, for their college education in these 529 college plans. But again, having these sort of budgeting discussions and conversations are critically important. Now, goal setting, kind of helping your children look down the line a little bit, and having a goal gives them control. So get them thinking about it. What do you want to save for? Is it For a younger child, it could be a certain toy. It could be a game. Maybe for an older child, it's saving for their first car. Could be, taking your date to a nice dinner at the prom or senior trip. You can see other college savings, those type of things. But helping them have a goal and put it in place and setting up a budget to help them meet that goal is going to teach them very important and critical lessons for the future. Now, how do you keep that on track? This can be a challenge. So you've set a goal, and they're telling you that they're not meeting that goal, that I don't have enough, I'm not going to get there. So you got to talk to them about define your goal, what is it you're trying to do? If you can only do one thing, what would it be? So what's the most important thing for you here? And then what's going to help you achieve that? Do we need to take on extra jobs? Obviously, we need to look at perhaps spending habits. Where's that money going? Are you spending it on, cheeseburgers and video games? Should you be saving more? Make those and help them understand that they've got to make decisions that are going to help them achieve that goal. Is this what I'm going to do with this money going to help me get a step closer to my final goal there? Obviously, that final point I think is important. Decisions regarding how you spend your money are easier when you have a plan. I think we all, could learn some lessons from these, not just for children, but having a budget, sticking to it, and putting a plan in place to help you stay on track. Now, with money management, obviously, the whole idea with all of this, I would say, is helping them turn earning into learning. Help them discover their passions. And it could be done through doing a bunch of jobs and things that you don't like. You can learn what you don't want to do. I know I did that growing up, certainly working at I worked at a car wash, I mowed grass, I did some different things. Determined those were not things I wanted to do long term, but it helped me kind of discover my passion and what I did enjoy doing. It helps them understand the relationship between time and money and do some problem solving. And certainly all of these things are going to increase their independence, which is I think the goal for all of us. And the biggest goal we can, accomplish with our children is to help them be independent. Ways to earn more, always more chores around the house that can be done. Helping out your neighbors, and then part-time jobs after school. These are all additional things to consider. Now, these 4 keys here, I think these are things that we can all learn from. This is not just for children, but just general rules for accumulating wealth. Start as early as you can. Save on a regular basis, and begin with the largest amount you can save. And then, obviously, reach for the highest rate of return that's acceptable for you. So that gets into sort of risk tolerance and those type of things. And then the power of compounding. We're looking here at taking into consideration time, rate of return, and I'm going to show you a couple examples of compounding that can be kind of surprising. But teaching children the power of compounding, and this is what we use day in and day out with our 401k plans, is an important lesson to learn. The earlier they can learn it, the better. And again, that's going to help them be better savers going forward. Now, thinking before they spend, this can be the challenge. This is with my daughter. I know we go, she takes her allowance. We go to Target or to the toy store, and she, has something there, and she's thinking, this is what I want. I look at it. My first thought is, you got to be kidding me. You're going to spend all your hard-earned money on that. And, so have some questions for them. So I'll walk her through that. I'll say, do you really need that? Is that a need or a want? And then I'll talk to her about how much money she had saved and how long it took her to save that and how much she's going to have to spend on it. Should we shop around and see if there's a better deal for it somewhere else? You really feel like knowing all these factors, that the money you're going to spend on that is a good value. You're going to feel good about that. And can we negotiate? Is it something that's negotiable? Can we negotiate a better deal? So I think working through those questions as they make purchases is going to help them kind of develop that step plan, develop that mental kind of framework to work through as they're making purchases versus just, frivolously going out and spending money without even thinking about it. And again, these are the behaviors we want to try to ingrain at as early an age as possible. And then remind them, another quote from our founder, Mr. Stowers, that, I think is spot on. You can always spend what you save, but you can never save what you spend. So getting them to put away money is important. Now let's move to a couple examples. So the question here is, which would you rather have? A check for $1 million or a penny that doubles in value every day for 30 days? And probably looking at the question, you may intuitively guess, well, I'm thinking I know what the answer is because it can't be the $1 million because that's too obvious. And it is hard to believe, but you're right. A penny that doubles in value every day for 30 days is better. So let's take a look at this. And this shows the power of compounding. Is really just an example of that. So $1 million, there you have it. You have $1 million, that red line at the bottom for 30 days. You had $1 million at the beginning, you've got $1 million at the end. Now with the penny that doubles in value every day, you see you're not keeping up there through the majority of this, but then as you get toward the end, you start to see truly the impact of compounding, interest earned on interest, and you've got well over $5 million. I think that is a trade we would all take. So somewhat surprising, but again, that penny that doubles in value every day for 30 days shows the power of compounding interest. Now, what does it take, or how long will it take for an investment to double? This is just kind of a rule of thumb, or the rule of 72, something you can use and perhaps try to teach maybe some of the older children this and something for them to consider to show the benefits of saving and compounding. But it's, as you can see there, a mathematical formula. It calculates how many years it's going to take an investment to double with an annual compounding interest rate. So you take 72, the number 72 every time, and divide it by the interest rate, and that is going to tell you how many years until that particular investment will double. So in this example, $500 earning 8% interest would be doubled, would be worth $1,000 in 9 years. 72 divided by 8 is 9. So kind of an easy way to get that. And again, I think it's a good exercise to work through, perhaps, you know, with some of the older children to show them the benefits of compounding interest and saving over time. Now, why is compounding interest and you know, rate of return on investment important? Well, you can see here just sort of inflation and the loss of value of the dollar. So in the 20th century, the dollar lost 95% of its value. So what a dollar used to buy in 1900, it's now more than $21. So again, you know, that inflation risk and erosion on what you earned, you've got to sort of be able to outpace that over time, and that's why these are such critical lessons for our children to learn at a young age. Now, obviously there's a lot of tools and resources out there. You know, if you see an article, you know, in the newspaper, in a magazine that you think is something that could be pertinent or important to your child, cut it out, save it for them, talk to them. You know, we've talked about that. I think that's just a very important one. Have them talk to relatives, have them talk to people they admire. You know, take them to work with you. Help them learn the benefits of work and return on investment. And then you can see there the website that we have that's a resource for you. Certainly make note of that. YesYouCanOnline.info. It's got some great tools, some you know, some wonderful resources, some exercises for the children to work through. So again, that's a little bit about what we can do to help support this is on that Yes You Can Online website. So hopefully shared some thoughts there that can maybe help you have those conversations. Again, I think at the end of the day, you know, the kind of in summary, having that financial talk with your kids and grandkids is important. You know, just make it casual, but have that conversation. The allowance we talked about, you know, rule of thumb, 1 year of age equals $1 per week, and know that these kids are learning their habits from you, from the parents and grandparents. You know, and kind of with that, as final thoughts, I think, first of all, I applaud all of you for taking the time to join us, and I think this is a critically important topic, and that is sort of step one, is to accept that and to learn more about it and have these conversations. So I thank you again for the time, and I guess now I'll turn it back to Dave and Rebecca for the questions.
Thank you very much, Brian. I think that was very concise and definitely had some excellent points to share with children. You know, one of the things that really amazed me is coming up through the public school system in Georgia, elementary, middle school, and high school. there is very, very little in our school system about teaching kids anything about personal finance. I graduated from the business school at University of Georgia, and even going through business school, there was never a personal finance course. And I'm amazed at that sometimes the lack of education out there in our institutions, both public and private, as it relates to money. But teaching our children, the next generation, about money is very, very important for all the parents. And I'm glad to see that there is a little bit more finance instruction in the schools out there. But I certainly think it's something that we need more and more of. But thank you, Brian, for that excellent presentation. I'd like to open it up to any questions, and we'll address them at this time. Any questions out there?
Hi, everyone. This is Rebecca. We are going to unmute all of your lines. And then if you have questions, you can ask them directly to the speakers. Or if you'd like, on the bottom right-hand side, there's a Q&A box, and you can also submit them that way. With that, everyone's lines are officially unmuted. And we have our first question that came in through the Q&A box. And it says, how would you suggest having the conversation about the importance of charitable giving?
Great question. Great question. You know, I think it is important. And again, we talked throughout the presentation about starting as young as possible. And I think getting your kids thinking charitably as young as possible is important. You know, one thing that I've seen others do and that we've employed with our children is we give them basically 2 jars for their allowance. So they keep the sort of, well, really 3 in effect, actually. There is a spending, sort of a, you know, kind of more cash on hand. There is a savings jar, and then there is a charity jar. So let's just say you give, for simplicity's sake, $3 a week. You know, $1 goes into each one. And so with that, they're gonna learn really 3 different things. They're gonna learn, okay, here's some money that I can spend, that I can go buy, you know, a little toy or some candy or what I want to do with that. They learn the savings jar and they see that grow over time. And then the charity jar, and at the end of each year, we'll take our children and, you know, whether it's adopting a family at Christmas to buy them, you know, some toys and gifts, you know, it could be other things, but I think that immediately shows them, here's the money you saved and here's the impact it had charitably, and let them see that. You know, we've also taken them on, you know, donating time and helping, you know, pack seeds at church and do different things to send off to, you know, other you know, underprivileged countries and things along those lines. But just getting them, I think, involved as early as possible, and I think building a charitable donation jar into their allowance is a good idea and a good way to do that.
Excellent, thank you. We have another question that just came in from Brian. It says, do you know of any good software for kids? We use Quicken, but we feel it is a little too much for our daughter. Thanks.
That's a great question, Brian. You know, I honestly, off the top of my head, am not aware of any, but I can certainly try to research that or perhaps get it back through Dave. Dave, I'm not sure if you're aware of any software that can help children like that, but I think that's a great point.
It's a great question, and also kind of has me scratching my head, but let me reach out to a couple of our resources, and we will find what answers are out there, and we will follow up directly with you on that, Brian, but that's an excellent question.
And then we have, looks like one additional question that says, we give our son an allowance, and he seems to spend it on iTunes and at the candy store. How can we encourage good savings behavior?
Yeah, that's kind of seems like $1 million question, and it's something I know we all struggle with. And that's where I think having that conversation, there's kind of maybe 2 thoughts there. One is talking about the budget. You know, they've got money coming in, and help them keep track. And this can be a challenge, but help them keep track of where the money is going on a monthly basis, money in, money out, and I think that can always be opening for all of us. When you do a budget, you don't think about it, but if you put on paper, my goodness, how much money am I spending at Starbucks, or, what am I spending on, these frivolous little things, that perhaps that can help show, exactly where their money's going. That may not have the impact. Then it's having that conversation with them about the whole needs and wants. What is it you're trying to accomplish here? Is there a goal in place? So have they set a goal of saving for, let's say that's, if they're spending money on iTunes and other things, perhaps it's a teenager and you help them set a goal of saving for their first car. Are these things you're doing putting you closer to that goal or not? And again, identifying needs and wants, and in the framework of goal setting and accomplishing that goal is, I think, the best way to have that conversation with them.
All right, that looks like that is it for our Q&A section. Unless anyone on the line has a direct question I'd like to ask to the speaker. With that, David, would you like to say some final words?
3.
Rebecca, I'm not sure if Dave heard you.
It looks like we do not have any additional questions at this time. So, David, would you like to say some closing words?
Yes, I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us this morning. We will follow up directly for any unanswered questions, and we look forward to having more of you join us on our next webinar in our partner series. So thank you for your time. Everyone have an excellent day, and thanks again to Brian Munn at American Century for being our co-host today.
Thank you, everyone. The meeting is ended.